Hey everyone, Steve Gonzo, physical therapist here with Run Smart Online. We talk about training smarter real quick. I was on my run this morning. I'm finishing up here in Florida. But talk about training and running smarter, and especially if you're a runner over 40, going to really help you and try to understand, or help you understand what you can do to make your training plan that much better. It's really easy to do. If you're interested in learning more real quick before I do this, if you want more information on this, go to the link in the post. You can learn more about this rule and how you can implement it with one of my training guides. But let's get right to it. So one of the things that I see most often with runners is they get to the start line and they feel, sure, it's people all the time are having great races, but a lot of times people get a little disappointed because they get to the start line, they don't feel right, they don't feel well, they're tired, they're injured, and then it kind of just plagues race day. And sometimes that's just running, right? Because you put all this time and effort into one single event and it can go belly up pretty quick. If you can focus on this one thing, and I'm going to try to draw, that's some new software here, but you can try to include this in your training, it'll make a huge difference for everything. So let me see if I can, it's not going to let me share when I'm live. But imagine this. So if you're starting to train, I'm just going to take an easy run. I had a conversation with this runner recently, and she wanted to run a half marathon. She averages 30 miles a week. And she's currently running about 11 to 15 miles a week, pretty consistently. And her question to me was, how can I start my training plan? And I went to this rule, which is pre-training plan and once you get started, which is the 60% rule. So runner, half marathon, she's looking to start training, running 11 to 15 miles a week. She trains at 30 miles a week. First thing, a piece of advice to her was this. It was to get yourself up to 60% of your mileage and run that consistently for about a month, 3 to 4 weeks until you start training. And if you can do this, it really helps your body prep for running. It helps the joints, it helps the the muscles, the tendons, everything get used to your mileage, and 60% is a good number because you're not going in really hot and overtrained, but you have some consistency built on your side. Too often I see runners start their training plan completely undertrained. They kind of look at the starting point as, okay, I'm going to start on this day and I'm going to just go for it. And what ends up happening is they end up just getting hurt early in their plan, and I see this quite often. So I told her to get to 60% a day and make sure you sustain that for about 3 to 4 weeks. The second piece of that 60% is really important. And before I forget, if you want to learn more about this 60% and actually implement it in your training, go to runsmartonline.com/train. The link is in the post, and you can actually, I'll do this for you in our training plans. But the second piece is the 60% recovery week. So you need 60% of your mileage to start, and then 60% of your mileage is going to be your recovery week. So let's take the runner who wants to run a half marathon, 30 miles a week. Would be like kind of their max for running. My suggestion to this runner, and we do this in my plans that I've been building for people for the last 10 years, is every third week you're going to drop down to 18 miles, which is 60% of 30. And so you build, drop, build, drop. That third week, so it's a 2-to-1 principle, I call it that occasionally, but every third week, if you drop down to 60%, what it's going to do is a couple things. It's going to give legs time to rest. It's going to free up time because, through training, and I always talk about runners over 40 because that's who I work with most. And as a father of 2 young kids, time is a premium. And compared to when I didn't have kids and I wasn't, in college and things like that, I had tons of time. But it gives you a couple advantages of recovery every third week. And mentally, it also gives you an awesome advantage as well. Every third week, if you're dropping down to 60%, you're either going on to recovery week or coming off a recovery, always. So you finish your first week, you're like, I can't slack this week. I just got off a recovery week. I got my rest. I need to get to it. I need to get my runs in. And then the next week, you're like, I can't slack now. I'm going on to recovery next week. I can push some things to next week, and it just gives you a good cycle and flow to go down to your base mileage of 60% every third week. It's perfect for recovery. It reminds me of a couple of people who did this. And if you're interested, again, you can go in and check this out using the link above. You can try it for $1. We built this training plan for you. But it reminds me of Mike, one of our runners, Mike, and he started off running, don't quote me on this, I'm just pulling this, but it was like around a 4:40 marathon. And there's nothing too shocking here because it did take us about 2 years to do this. But through these principles of running 60% before your training plan, 60% drop down weeks, placing your speed work in the right spot, Mike went from 440, then he went down to, I think it was 410, and then he went down to like 340. He cut an hour off. Granted, it took about a year or two to do this, but with the consistency and using some of these principles, you can run consistently. And I see so often runners are up and down, up and down, up and down because they're hurt, they're injured, they're coming back, they're trying to play catch up, they're trying to fit a race in. And using these principles really helped him, and it can help you too. You just have to commit to it. You know, it's not more is better world, especially with running. You have to be committed to smarter training. So there's a loud car that just went by. Let's wait for him. I'm guessing it's like a 14-year-old. Not 14 because he's not driving, and 16-year-old. Anyways, so the 60% rule worked out really well for him. There's definitely other things that go into a training plan. As a physical therapist and a running coach for the last 10 years, I've kind of worked out a lot of the kinks in the system, particularly just working with runners over the age of 40 because they're unique and with time and how their body responds to training. But if you're interested in learning how some of these other runners and you want to learn more just about this topic, 60% rule, how to taper properly, how to work your speed work in, check out the link above. I put this all on there for you. For $1, you can build a training plan that'll do this all for you, plus my strength workouts. And I'll be back probably tomorrow. Let me know in the comments if you have questions. Throw a share out there, and I hope to see you come across it, come train with me. But I'm going to go down to the beach now before we leave tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.